Is here, but it is time, so we'll go ahead and start. A few years ago, when I still had my grandmother, she lived till she was 97 years of age, which was a blessing because I loved her dearly, and it was always fun to go back home in the summers to visit with her. But a few years before she was 97, it just so happened that during a 1 month time frame, my mom, and my grandmother had injuries. I broke my jaw. I got on a motorcycle that he told me not to get on. And I just took it around the block, because it didn't start up in Tennessee. I don't know the humidity. I don't know, but it just cranked right over in
California. It was no motorcycle carburetor shot, and it took forever to find the carburetor for it.
Yeah, but it started up that day. I mean, just like so I had to get on it and drive it around the block. Well, silly me, I took the corner at too much of an angle, and realized I needed to really pick up speed to come out of the turn. And so when I picked up speed, my handlebars started going like that. And boom, down I went. I had one of those beanie helmets on. Don't get the beanie helmet. That's so stupid. You get the beanie helmet. Well, not a scratch on my helmet, my jaw. I don't know, can you see? Scar?
Yeah.
And my jaw went into the ground, and it just woof, and my maxillary bone was crushed in, teeth were hanging out of my mouth. My mandible was broken. Yeah, I had to have my mouth wired shut, which is always fun.
It's a $30,000 job.
It is. It costs a lot. Well, fortunately, I didn't have to pay
insurance.
for all of it. But,
Insurance.
yeah, when you eventually get that stuff taken off, your jaw is unwired. Your mouth cannot open very wide. I don't know if you've ever had a broken jaw, but I was lucky to get one tongue depressor into my mouth. I mean, that's as far open as it. And they told me I had to get to a point where I could get 30 into my mouth, which was depressing in and of itself. But I broke my jaw. My mom broke her arm, and my grandmother broke her hip, all in the same month. Now, guess who did the best? Can you guess? Yeah. You know how this is going to end, right? All right. So my grandmother did the best, and she was in her 90s. I mean, this wasn't. This was like 93 or 192 or something like that.
A lot of times old folks break their hip, and that's pretty much a death sentence.
That's almost a death sentence, but she survived. She did well. She healed quickest. I was probably the last, but maybe it was the seriousness of the injury. I don't know, but it's amazing. You do things. Number one, try not to do things too spontaneously. Think about things before you take too many risks. Drive responsibly.
Wear a full face helmet.
Wear a full face helmet. And be good to yourself, to your bodies, because apparently my grandmother had done that throughout her entire lifespan. And living to 97 is an indication of that in and of itself. How many of us will live that long? We don't know. No. But we've had some friends along the way who have not survived, beyond, 50. So yeah, every day is a blessing, and let's just take good care of ourselves, right? Anyway, shall we pray? Father, we stop for a brief moment to give you thanks for the life that we do have, the opportunity to be here, to be part of your family, to be valuable, to be validated and affirmed by you. We thank you for saving us. We thank you for the people you've given us in our lifetimes who have impressed us with memories that we'll never forget. We pray we can create similar memories with the people we encounter in our lifetimes, that our lives are a blessing to those around us. In your son's name we ask these things. Amen. Okay, so last time I guess it was qualitative. We talked a lot about qualitative research. And out of curiosity, did you find it interesting? Did you like what you saw? I mean, do you see yourself doing qualitative stuff? I mean, you know, if you're heading in the direction of a dissertation, is that something you see doing? Because we talked about case study. We talked about so that single subject research and case study. We talked about creating a theoretical framework, right? You know, with the abuse thing. We talked, and then we showed you the video of the gal who did the qualitative, the other qualitative aspect, which is where you do 25, 30 people. She didn't do 25, 30 people. She did lots of people and lots of interviews and focus groups and, you know, observations and things like that. And it took her, my goodness, what was it, six to 8 years to really be done with that process. Now you don't want to do that if you're heading in the direction of a dissertation. I can tell you that much. You do not want to do that. Pick something halfway interesting that you can do fairly quickly. That would be my 2 cents to you. If you want to do something meaningful later on, go for it. But you just want to get it done. I can't tell you how many people had what they call ABDs. You've heard of it, right?
Mm-hmm. All but dissertation.
All but dissertation. I call it all but done. You're all but done, right? You know, because you've done everything, you've done all your coursework, and you don't complete your dissertation, so you never get the doctorate. You know, that's a lot of money and time and effort wasted, you know, if you don't do that last part. So pick something that's halfway interesting but doable. More important is doable. And get it done, and then do other great intense things down the road if you want to do more research. To get it done. The percentage of people who have doctorates in the U.S., would you care to guess how many people have?
1%.
It is 1%. Only 1% of the population has.
And that's across the board.
Yeah. But my guess is that if we looked at ABDs, that percentage would at minimum double, if not, 10 times more. So yeah.
With the increase of people who are getting bachelor's degrees and then masters, the doctoral percentage hasn't gone up?
No. Because people run into these roadblocks when they hit that dissertation stage. Sometimes it takes them if you're lucky, it'll take you a year. Sometimes it may take 5, 6, 7 years. Sometimes you get tired and you just give up. So it's where the self-discipline really has to kick into play, because this is your baby. The committee is there to support you, but they're not there to do it for you, right? So yeah, doable over absolutely powerfully meaningful. Doable.
And you have more street cred to do the absolutely powerful, meaningful stuff when you got 3 letters after your name,
Yeah.
as opposed to.
Yeah, and you've got time if you want to do real meaningful stuff. You can. There's no one stopping you once you have your doctorate. So, but get done. Get into that 1%
Get her done.
club if you're deciding you're going to go down that direction. All right. So, this is a big topic, right? Actually, I've done some presentations on this topic, and I'm going to try to get it published soon. So basically, thou shalt not steal. And everybody kind of knows what plagiarism is. Right? We had this discussion, I think, at the very beginning. Everybody kind of knows what it is. But I had found over the years that even though people said they knew what it is, and I would explain what it was in my book to each class, 4 words or more from an author, word for word, put it in quotes, cite the page number in addition to the author and the year. Other professors have different standards. They may say 5 words, they may say 3 words, it just depends on, your professor. So find out from your professor so you don't make a mistake. Even though people know, and I've gone through that speech many times in over the years in classes, I would get, the papers that I would get, about 50 to 70% would have plagiarism on it, of some form, a sentence here, a sentence there, a sentence fragment, several sentence fragments, sometimes a whole paragraph, you know, and you know, the worst case outcomes were, you know, the whole paper was plagiarized, you know. And as a, you know, plagiarism is a big deal, and these days we have to report it to a committee, Academic Integrity Committee. So this is just kind of a cute video. Why aren't you playing video? Jay, do I have to hit another key? Oh, here we go. I just thought that was the cutest thing. It was so popular when it first came out. Yeah, well, it was so popular, people started copying it.
What the heck?
Okay, you know, we had lots and lots of videos of people mimicking this thing. Did they give them credit for it? You know, the original kitty thing? No. But technically you should. You should give credit where credit is deserved. Well, here's a thought. Plagiarism. Most people believe it's malicious. It's intentional. Every time you see plagiarism, it's intentional. It's, you know, malicious. Da, 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 da.
Premeditated.
It's premeditated. You know, and that would be, you know, easy to understand because we're supposed to know what plagiarism is, right? But the reality is, in my classes, again, I would go through plagiarism at the very beginning of every quarter, what it was all about. Everybody seemed to understand what it was all about. And then I decided, okay, I will even give you something additional to this process to help you prevent it from occurring. I'll ask you to turn in your journal articles with your paper, circle on the article where I can find this in your paper. Does that make sense? So
And everybody knows they're supposed to do that
yeah.
for
this-
the paper you're
for this
turning
paper.
in.
So you circle in your article and you'll say something like next to the circle, you'll say, this will be found on page 4, paragraph 3, sentence 2. So I go back, or you go back, right? And you look at it and if you see that you made a mistake and you actually have used too many of the author's own words without putting in quotes, this should be a nice check to prevent you from plagiarizing, right? So that was my thought anyway, when I added that to all my papers. But what was happening was that instead of it being a nice check, it was just leading me to the plagiarism. Does that make sense? People were actually telling me where to find the plagiarism. So I would say, oh, that's on page 3, paragraph 2. I go to page 3, paragraph 2, sentence 3, and word for word, there it is. Not in quotes. So then I started thinking, well, if it's intentional, if it's malicious, why are people leading me back to the scene of the crime? That doesn't make any sense, does it? So then I had to kind of rethink my paradigm. Could it be that a lot of people think they know what plagiarism is, but don't really know what it is? And could they unconsciously be doing this, not maliciously? That was my theory. So I decided I would kind of test this, and that was my new teaching strategy to try to help prevent plagiarism, is by having people circle the information on the journal article and tell me where to find it in the paper, but it wasn't sufficient, it wasn't working. My newest strategy is that in another class period in this class, we're actually going to practice how not to plagiarize. Okay, so because the research says if you practice this, you'll probably get it. Okay, so that's my newest strategy. But people, for the most part, 60 to 70% were leading me to the scene of the crime by circling the material. So that's why I started thinking, oh, this is probably unintentional or unconscious. And how could that be? Well, you know, I don't know about you guys, you can tell me whether this is true or not. How many papers in your undergraduate program came back with a lot of feedback? Did you get a lot of feedback? What did you typically get? Just out of curiosity.
Sometimes it would have been like, like a paragraph.
Yeah, at the end?
With the letter.
Yeah.
Grade.
And you're a
Typically at the
newspaper.
end, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Rough drafts, no,
Mhm.
very little feedback.
But we use something called Turnitin, and so,
Yeah.
I mean, it just defeats the purpose of anyone trying, because it shows you exactly what you plagiarized without, it highlights it and it shows you where.
You know, and that's the general thinking with Turnitin, but the reality that I found with Turnitin is it doesn't catch all the
Everything.
plagiarism.
No.
Because it only catches a fraction of it, because really, Turnitin is a database of papers that have been submitted.
Hmm.
It doesn't catch
Yeah.
anything that, like, let's say I get on the internet today and I'm writing a paper, I decide to cut and paste from some internet sources.
Something obscure.
No, that's what it looks now.
It
It
actually
searches the entire internet.
It does search
that.
the entire
And it'll tell you
internet.
the website they
Right.
plagiarized from, and it'll bring it up.
So they've actually created some
really
new
improved it
changes.
now.
So they really
improved it.
Put it
Yeah.
on steroids, because before it was
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
sort
its
of
own database.
supported.
No, now it checks
I-
the internet too, and it'll tell you the website
When did
and
they
highlight
make
what
that
they
change?
did.
When did they make that change?
It's been recent, because our district just bought it from all the
Wow.
high schools.
Oh,
Because
that's a
I can
serious
tell you,
improvement.
when
they'll tell
I
you website
I
and
would do
everything.
cross checks between Turnitin and I was picking up maybe 30% of the plagiarism with Turnitin, and almost everything else I was picking up because I was doing the searching.
Hmm.
So, we use Turnitin right now,
Mhm.
and I catch what they don't catch often, actually, because,
Mhm.
one student, for example,
Mhm.
as an English teacher, you read student writing, you learn to distinguish
You
the
kind of
voice.
see where it changes,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I looked at something, and, well, the entire paper did not read for one student. I said, who wrote this for you? My tutor. I'm like, okay, that doesn't. But
they were honest.
But it went through
Honest.
Turnitin.
Yeah.
It went through Turnitin. Turnitin didn't catch anything.
Mm.
How long ago
Uh,
was
Because
this?
it's only looking
This was
for.
just a month ago.
Mm.
But it was an original creation from somebody else. But I
Right.
could tell
Right.
from the voice of the paper that it wasn't
Yeah.
his.
So the paper was, the person who wrote it didn't plagiarize.
But for
The person who
others-
turned it in did.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
for other students, you look at like the change in voice.
Mhm.
So what I do is I grab it and I toss it into Google,
That's what I do.
and it will
That's what I
turn
do.
up a completely different article. So
I
can
look for
tell because-
suspicious
yeah.
fragments, and then I'll cut
Yeah,
and
exactly.
paste it into the Google search
It
engine.
It does the quick and dirty
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it's still there's still some holes.
Yeah, yeah, the most ingenious plagiarizer I ever ran across was a person, I don't know if I should tell you this even. Turns out I did it. No, you guys are all honest, right? But they and this is before Turnitin existed or anything like that, but he turned in the paper and I had him, of course, circle things on the journal article and tell me where I would find it in the paper. But every time I would look at what he circled and I looked at what he wrote in the paper, they didn't line up. It didn't say anything. What he was saying in the paper didn't line up with anything that was being said in the article. And I went to myself, he copied something and didn't cite it. Does that make sense? He copied something and he didn't cite it. And so I sat down with him along with the chair at the time. He didn't admit or deny it, but we made him write the paper over, and it, he lost some serious grade, because of course he didn't admit or deny it, and we knew because it wasn't lining up with anything. You read something in a journal article, and it doesn't, cats are friendly, and it's talking about dogs. Okay, what? Hello? Is he? Probably thought I wasn't looking at anything, but I do look at things, So it's like, okay.
And that today you would have ended up in front of the academic integrity committee.
Integrity committee, he probably
Would
would
have
have been
been
thrown
at
out
your
of the
hands.
program. There have been people who have copied dissertations word for word. And and they've been thrown out of their entire program because of that. And but who would do that? That's amazing, but who would do that? But apparently people do.
So I'm wondering this in terms of like how much you have to source or cite, right?
Yeah.
When I write an English paper, if I cite common knowledge, I mean, and what is common knowledge, right? But
Yeah,
if I cite, or if I,
If you know the common knowledge
Yeah.
and you kind of know, hey, probably originated with Confucius,
sure.
you know, try to
or-
find it, you know, type of
But
thing.
if it's not a quote, if it's like, you
Yeah.
know, the majority of blah, blah, blah is comprised of blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm wondering, to what extent do you cite?
You know, if it's coming out of your head and it's yours, you know, I think certainly illustrations that are personal, stories that to explain what it is that you're writing about, that's your stuff, right?
Mhm.
And to a certain extent, you know, we've absorbed a lot of information. We can't really think of who we can credit with maybe that information too, because it's so general, right? But if there's something that is, you know, something you know somebody has said, you know, it would be good to go looking for it, you know, so you can give that person that credit.
My sister's, she's a sociology major, and she was doing her social work master's degree, and he said, you know, I was editing her paper or something, she said something like, the majority of the population Hispanic or something like that, and
Mhm.
her professor said back, you gotta cite that.
Well, you know, what
So
would be
that's what I'm wondering,
good,
like, how
what-
specific?
if, whenever you make an assertion,
Mhm.
whenever you make an assertion and you're not the authority in the field, find a source. Find a source. Just someone who, like the US Census Bureau would be a good one to go to for that
According to the
information.
US Census
Yeah,
Bureau.
yeah, because whenever you make an assertion, you know, you should be backing it up with some credible source, you know, because otherwise, you're making an assertion that might not be true, you know, and that's not a good paper. You know, so especially if you're stringing together a whole bunch of assertions that now lead you in a
If you're
a
building
direction.
theory, you
Yeah.
need to have credible sources
Yeah.
from which to, oh, yeah, Chomsky and da-da-da-da.
Yeah, so anything, you know, like, I did a presentation, just the other day, and I was talking about, 2013 data. You know, there was 317 million, people in the US at that time, according to the US Census Bureau. And, out of that number, 19.9 million individuals were in undergraduate programs. Okay, so, you know, I had to cite that source, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, if you have numbers, especially if you got numbers, try to find a source.
So it, at that point, when I say, according to the US Census Bureau, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
and then parentheses, author, and all that jazz followed?
Yeah,
Or
you
is
know,
it sufficient to say
the
according
rule
to-
is try to find the original primary source. If you can find the primary source, it's better than the secondary source. So let's say you find an article that the author was Smith, and Smith cited the US Census Bureau, right?
And the US Census.
Yeah, it's better to go to the original source than it is the secondary source, because Smith might have made a mistake. You know, would anybody ever make a mistake writing a paper? No, but I think it has happened in the past.
Okay, so I'm sorry, this is another one that I've seen.
Mhm.
So I'm reading an article and they cite somebody. And
Yeah,
I don't want to cite them, I wanna cite somebody.
yeah,
I can't find their article, but they've put their reference in their bibliography. I mean, how does that work? Do I
Well-
go pull up the original?
you know,
Yeah.
again, if you can go to the primary
The
source,
bibliography
the
is
better.
a gold mine for
The
information.
better, the better. Go to the primary source and see it, because they may have paraphrased it them wrong, you know.
Okay.
So it's always better, but worst comes to worst, you can't find a primary source. All you can find is the abstract, you don't have access to the full text or whatever. And all you have is this article, and it's written by Smith. So what you would say, let's say the original source is Jones. Jones is the primary source. Smith is the secondary source. So you say Jones notes that blah, 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 blah. And then in parentheses at the end of that statement, you go, as cited by Smith, comma, 2012.
know you were looking for the pen.
I was like, I didn't see one,
Yeah.
so I had to say it that way. So Jones says this, they're the primary source. Jones, this is what Jones says, as cited by Smith. See? Now you're being true to it. So now, anyone who wants to figure out, wants to find the Jones source, they just need to find the Smith source. They'll find the Jones source, and maybe they'll have a better time finding the original article in its full entirety.
Yeah, because a lot of times, even though we have access to the database here at the university, sometimes you can't get to it, or
Or
it's,
it doesn't have full text.
register here and pay us $30 and you have the article. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want you to spend $30 on
That
an
adds up
article.
a lot. But here's what I typically tell folks. If the abstract is a good abstract, some abstracts don't tell you anything. They'll say, we did this and the results will be discussed in the article. Okay, so it doesn't tell you anything, right? But sometimes an abstract will actually tell you the essence of what they found.
Maybe
Paraphrase
article.
it. Paraphrase it and cite it. The abstract is already telling, you're just missing some details. But if you didn't want to really note details, you just wanted the generics of the information. There you go. You got it.
I wouldn't do that in a dissertation, but for purposes of this class, it's perfectly acceptable.
So here was my theory. After my own personal experiences with finding so much plagiarism, after talking about plagiarism, after giving people, telling people, hey, circle this stuff on your journal articles, tell me where I can find it in your paper, and they were leading me to the plagiarism. After that was happening, I started to think that this is really a mutually failed endeavor between universities and schools, because we don't have that constructive feedback loop. I can't tell you, and again, I can't speak for you, but I can't tell you when I was in my undergraduate program how many papers I got back with just a grade on it. Period. That was it. Just a grade. Or a sentence. Good paper. That's it. I had no feedback.
Or worse yet, you get 85 out of 100,
And period.
and that's it.
That's
There's no
it.
red, you
There's-
don't know,
you don't
what do
know-
I have to do to get the extra 15
Yeah,
points?
where did I fall short, or how do I improve? When you get papers like that throughout your academic experience, then how do you really grow in terms of writing etiquette or technique? Constructive feedback, that mechanism is important. It's essential for the learning process. So if I'm getting papers, and the majority of the papers, there's always plagiarism on it, a sentence here or a half sentence there, or that sort of thing, then I'm thinking mutually failed endeavor. And in one study, they actually gave a bunch of people a paper and some articles, and they said, find the plagiarism. And 40 to 50% of the sample couldn't even find the plagiarism. All right? So something is awry here. People may think they know what it is, but the reality is that perhaps they don't. The other problem that I saw with plagiarism is that in our society in the United States, we don't have a standardized word count for plagiarism, do we? Is it 5 words? Is it 6? Is it 7? Is it 4? What is it? Do you know what it is? Can we all agree on what that word number is?
No.
No. It depends on the professor, doesn't it? It would be nice if we had one standardized rule so everybody was on the same sheet of music all the time. And then we just got into that habit of understanding that's the rule, right? Because if in my mind, I think it's 4 words and you think it's 6, and I never communicated that to you, and you give me a 6-word lift, I'm going to count it as plagiarism, right? So being on the same sheet of music is not a bad idea. It does take sustained effort not to plagiarize. You can be writing and you can say, okay, that sounds pretty good. I'll go back and I'll put that in my own words later, right? And then you forget, right? So sustained effort, or sometimes literally, I've actually found myself doing this periodically. I've read it and then I turn to put it in my own words, and without realizing it, I've actually kept some of their words. So that sustained effort really does come into play there. So I'm always continuing to check when I do
And
this.
joins the
sort of thing.
fatigue factor.
Yeah, fatigue will really
Causes
mess you
mistakes.
up. Training helps, and we will train a little in this class. So inadequate feedback, and then I started thinking, well, how far up does this go with plagiarism? Does it certainly happens at the undergraduate level, does it go to the graduate level? And the furthest you can go up in terms of the continuum is to the dissertation stage, right? So I decided to do a study on plagiarism with dissertations. And by the way, when I do feedback, I will do something like this. When you see that conjunction and, historical determinism is the view that personality is basically established and fixed, usually by the age of 5, comma, and it is subject. Whenever you have a conjunction and you put a comma before the conjunction, it should separate 2 independent clauses, 2 complete sentences, right? I mean, that's one of those, punctuation rules. But a lot of people don't know that. So when you get feedback from me, this is the type of feedback you would get. I'll try to point out what you did, what should have been done, and why I took a tiny bit of credit off of it. Okay. So my hypothesis. Now, remember we did qualitative last week, so now I'm trying to turn our attention to quantitative. My hypothesis was that quality control, when we get to the dissertation level, would be pretty absent. And I would find a significant amount of plagiarism on dissertations. That was my hypothesis. So what I did is I took a randomized sample of not only regionally accredited universities, but they had to be APA approved, American Psychological Association approved universities or programs in that university. So I took only dissertations that met those criteria, randomized sample of all sorts of universities, from high prestigious universities, which I won't name, to small universities, to private institutions, religious institutions, and so forth. Just a randomized sample. And I define plagiarism as 4 words in a row from an author, word for word. That was my entry level plagiarism rate. So that's what I did. And the dissertations also had to fit some sort of search parameter. So maybe I chose biofeedback. I don't know. I can't even remember to this day what I chose, because I didn't put that in my dissertation because I didn't want anybody to locate the dissertations that had plagiarism in it that I found. So let's say you use Gestalt therapy or something. All the dissertations had to have that in common, or biofeedback, or whatever search parameter I use. But it would be a randomized sample, right? And I limited myself to checking for plagiarism. I didn't use Turnitin at the time because it fell woefully short of finding plagiarism. So I used original articles. The articles they used, I found and I looked at. Okay. If they use books, obviously I wasn't going to track it. Way too time consuming to look at books. But if the journal articles, I could easily find, and I use those. The other thing I would use would be if I found a suspicious sentence fragment like you, I would put it in a search engine and I would see if anything would pop up. So that's how I went about to try to find the plagiarism. Well, what I found with all the dissertations I looked at, in 100% of the cases, I found plagiarism.
What was your initial sample size?
Initially it was 65, then I did one with 100 dissertations, and then I did one with 120 dissertations.
So you look at-
100% plagiarism in each thing I did, 100%. With not 4 words, the bottom, the lowest number was 5 words.
Yeah.
All right? So I'm finding 100% plagiarism. Okay, now not only that, now look at this. What do you see? How many dissertations had 10 words or more listed,
80%.
word for word? And what percentage?
80%?
80%. This is for 65 dissertations. 80% of the dissertations had 10-word lists or more. 10 words, not 5, not 4. We're talking a sentence, at least a sentence, right? Alright? That's how that looked. Alright? And the lowest number of words was 5. Right? And it wasn't just one 5-word list. When I found it in the lower level ones, most of the time I would see it like 5 or 6 5-word lists. Does that make sense? I mean, it wasn't just like one, or 3 or 4 7-word lists, you know.
So 52 of the 65 dissertations had 80% plagiarism.
52 of the 65 dissertations had 10 words or more.
What?
80% of the dissertations lifted 10 words or more and did not give appropriate guidance. And that's how it looked in terms of.
Yes.
And when you say did not give appropriate, does that mean?
No quote symbols, no page number.
Okay. I thought maybe they didn't cite it like in proper style.
Correctly. Like what
They
was
they
your-
might have said the author, they might have said the year, but they didn't put it in quotes, they didn't cite the page number, you know. When we paraphrase, we're supposed to at least cite the author and the year. When we quote, we have to add the quote symbols and we have to add the page number.
So they weren't using APA format.
And that's why it had to be an APA program.
Right.
That's why because I wanted it to be the rules that APA folks go by, which is author, year, quote symbols, and page number, right? And I could tell too, when I looked at the entire dissertation, that they knew how to quote appropriately. There was evidence in all these dissertations, maybe even as few as 4 words were in quotes. The author was cited, the year was cited, and the page number was cited. So they knew how to quote. It wasn't like they didn't know how to do it. It's just that they made some mistakes, all right? So here's an example of how it might look. A number of individuals with disorders never make it to a mental health professional. Well, that's actually one of the things I found. So all they did was they changed one word. They changed any to a. Yeah. Starting with individuals. Individuals or disorders never make it to any mental health professional. That was the original quote. And they changed any to a. So this actually then became for me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-word lift versus a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-word lift. Because they changed one word, I reduced the number of words that it represented in terms of a lift. Even though really changing one word, come on, that's not good technique anyway, right? Right, so, but I gave them, I took the lower number. Here's another one. The data has shown that distributed justice is significantly more influential in individuals' evaluations of da-da-da-da. So what they did is they changed have to has, all right? And they added one word somewhere in there, significantly. So the best I could do here was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5-word lift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 5-word lifts. Does that make sense? In terms of how I looked at the data, okay? All right, so the largest word lift that I found in one of the dissertations was 150 words. 150 words. Now, now, now look at this. Look at this bottom thing. What percentage of dissertations had 15-word lists or more? Almost half of the dissertations had 50-word, almost half of the different dissertations had 15-word lists or more.
And if I remember right, you didn't go through the entire dissertation cover to
No,
cover.
no. I basically, I focused on the literature review, you know, one of the chapters. Because when you get to chapter 3 and 4 and 5, you're starting to look at the analysis of the data, and there might have been plagiarism in there. But the other thing I did is once I found a 10-word lift, I stopped. I stopped. So that meant there could have been a 50-word lift in there, but if I stopped at 10, I might not have found it. Okay, you guys are tired. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stretch. You gotta hear this stuff, man. Stretch. Back and forth, back and forth. All right, stretch. Hey, let's run a place. Run a place. Come on, let's do it. Come on, let's do it. Come on, let's do it. Come on, come on. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Are we up? Are we awake? All right, right there. All right. I just see all the.
Everybody's
I know
got
it's
zoning
late.
out at once.
Woo.
Just because we have
We're
the door
tired.
open and the air's a little heavy, or?
Yeah, I don't know, but we're tired, I can see. Okay, all right. Now this was 100 dissertations, and look at the numbers again. See? You notice anything? Out of 100 dissertations, it was 82%. So we're pretty constant, aren't we? Out of 65 dissertations, it was 80%, right? Now it's 82%. So we went up a little bit. For 15 words or more, it actually went down a little bit, 45%, but it's still way up there out of 100 dissertations. All right? Okay, then I decided, I want to compare religious universities to non-religious universities. So I did 120 dissertations. I compared the religious to the non-religious. And I did a t-test because that looks at group means, okay? And basically, 10 words or more was 81% for the entire sample, right? In all 3 studies, 100% plagiarism was found. I don't know. I'm looking at you guys and you're going like, maybe that's not so exciting. But to me, it was like really exciting. Wow, that many dissertations? Plagiarism? What's going on here? Somebody's not gatekeeping. Somebody's not doing their jobs, is what I'm thinking. Which is pretty much kind of what happened throughout our entire education process, is what I'm thinking. So 100% plagiarism in all 3 studies. Percentages, 10-word lists or more, it was 80%, then it was 82%, and it was 81%. When we looked at 15-word lists, it was 48%, then it went down to 45%, and then 43% is what it went down to. The highest number of word lists were 150 words. And my conclusion was that, even before we get to comparing the religious versus the non-religious universities, is that quality assurance controls are not in place. If that much plagiarism is getting through on these dissertations, 100% of the dissertations there's plagiarism, somebody's not watching what's going on.
And rest assured, for any university to get approved, regional accreditation is hard enough in and of itself. But
The
getting
APA
APA, you just don't fill out a form and send it to APA, and they send you back
Standards.
something with a rubber stamp that's had. It's a difficult process.
Yeah. It is a difficult process. But the interesting thing to me is that there was no significant difference between religious or non-religious universities. No significant difference. I mean, it was like 9.65 words to 9.5 words between you know, you just know off the top of your head, there's no significant difference if that's the average number between both groups. 9.65 and 9.5 below, no significant difference between the two groups. Okay. So I could have underestimated plagiarism because, you know, if they just changed one word, I took the lower number. You know, I didn't even count serial shifts. So if the original article said running, thinking, and walking, and you said running, walking, and thinking, I didn't count that against you. Does that make sense? So I was, you know, gracious there, I think. And in some dissertations, all they used were books, or I could only find a few references, journal references. So I might have underestimated, I might have overestimated. I mean, some people might think, oh, 5-word lists. You're being too hard on people for 5-word lists. You should start with 7 or 8. So I could have overestimated. You know, and if they made a word change, you know, like they used quoting versus quote or vice versa, I counted that against them. I actually did count that against them. So instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-word lift, that became a 9-word lift. Does that make sense? So I could have overestimated, I could have underestimated, I don't know. My conclusions, and I presented this at a conference, is that we need to have a standardized, recognized word length for plagiarism. We need to have that. Here, I don't think this will ever happen. We need to have smaller undergraduate classrooms. You know, because number one, if I'm teaching an undergraduate class, and I have taught undergraduate classes, but I've never had like 150 or 100 students in them. Am I going to assign a
Have you ever
paper?
been to like USC, UCLA for their undergrad? How many are we talking?
Are you going to assign a paper
Are we
to
talking about 400 or 500 people in the class?
No.
Easy?
Yeah, and number one, you're probably not going to assign a paper, or if you do, you're not going to correct it, really, or your graduate assistants are going to correct it, and they might not do a good job, type of thing. And are they going to even look for plagiarism? Probably not. Yeah. So I would advocate for smaller undergraduate class sizes. That's never going to happen, but I think we should have more frequent written assignments. We should teach students how not to plagiarize. And we have to make a commitment to give consistent
You had a
feedback in
question?
papers. Oh, yeah, sir.
With APA, right? I
Mhm.
mean, schools have to be APA accredited or seek APA accreditation, right?
In this particular study, when I compared the religious versus the non-religious institutions, they had to be APA accredited.
So APA is like MLA, right? An organization. So
Yeah,
it's-
it's using the same source that we're
organization,
using.
and two, it's a professional organization that has their own writing style,
Right.
like MLA or Chicago.
So within the different MLA, Chicago, Travia, I mean, whatever, the organizations themselves don't establish that word length?
No.
Because I can see
No,
how it would
if you
work
go
on
through
one,
the
but-
entire, you know, you guys have to do APA papers, right? If you go through that manual, and you go through the entire manual, you'll see it says don't plagiarize, but you'll never see how many words that means. And if you get online, you won't see a standard, a national standard, in terms of how many words that means. So basically, my conclusion was that the system is broken and we need to fix it. It's a complicated issue. How to fix it, you know, would take great will. You know, people would have to take a lot of time to correct papers, and I don't think professors are into taking a lot of time to correct papers. Even at the graduate level, have you gotten a lot of feedback on your papers? You will in this class. I can tell you that, but yeah. All right. So that's kind of what I found out. So you go with an idea based on experiences. How did I get started on this? I was teaching classes and I kept telling people what plagiarism is. They seemed to know what it was, and yet people kept plagiarizing. So I had to challenge the paradigm I had in my head that it was always a malicious thing. I think it's accidental on some level. And I think part of that is because there's no continual constructive feedback loop. So we never learn how not to do it.
They were never reinforced,
Yeah.
as our next
Yeah.
class would say.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not getting much feedback on our papers, how can we know how to make adjustments to our papers? So it's a complicated issue, but that's kind of what I found out, which is kind of interesting. So we have time to go on to something else. Yeah. So let me show you a movie. Oh, no, let's go to try to give you a little energy to wake up. Let's see. What's a good one here? Let me see. You've seen the Palms. Dog Tickle. Well, you guys see Dog Tickle.
Oh, never showed them Oh, not this one.
Well, the clip has gotten posted and reposted across the block of here. Don't worry, Mackey's owner says those snorts are happy sounds. He looks so happy. Takes me past the hour. Oh my gosh. Al with the check of the weather. That's what happens when you take a loud, right, Al?
Yeah, exactly. Although you notice the dog went to bite the guy right with that
I
glass.
think so.
Thanks, dude. Here we go. Look at. That's great. All right, thanks. Oh,
Oh, here, should I show them this one?
I want to introduce you all to Teddy. He's two things cool about Teddy. Three things. He's a pug, he's pretty fat, but when he barks, he says something you may recognize. Check out the video on this. And Buck says Batman when he barks.
I thought he was like cock-a-doodling. It does not sound like Batman to me.
I think it sounds like Batman.
See, I hear it.
I'm more concerned that you thought I would like that story.
Here's one. Yes, he does that.
I love the look on her face too. Oh my god.
It's like up submarine, you know, down, what do they call it?
Periscope.
Periscope, yeah. Oh. Somebody must have been playing with it is all I can think of. Alright, so we got time. Let me show you one last, here, you can pass this one
Oh,
down.
go ahead and do this?
Yeah, might as well,
Okay.
might as well.
Take them down, pass them down.
Take them, pass them around. We'll do this one. It won't take us long.
You guys okay with getting out early, aren't you?
Oh, of course they are. I'll
Everyone
answer
knows how
for them.
end of the quarter that even teachers even will start cutting classes a little shorter.
Yeah. We get tired too. Okay, descriptive. Okay. Now, what? Don't look at your slides
notes,
per
yeah.
se, but just watch this video clip, okay? Okay. So you want to get the
Oh,
light.
lights, yeah.
To infinity and beyond!
I could fly with this one, too.
You stay away from him. He's mine. And no one is taking him away from me.
We can find bigger bugs to come here and fight and forever rid us of Hopper and his gang.
no, he's my son. He was taken by these divers.
don't we just put her back in the door? You send her back, it's like it never happened. I can't cook, but you can.
Can't count on anyone, especially your heroes.
Ratatouille doesn't sound delicious. It sounds like rat and patootie.
All trains lead to the ocean.
There's nothing more toxic or deadly than a human child.
Here we go. Focus. Speed. High speed. 1 minute. 42 lasers. I eat lasers for breakfast.
You were Moscanati.
People, wait.
Now.
What is it talking about?
This is Bonnie's bed.
What?
No one's gonna want those old toys. They're junk.
Nature has a certain order. The ants pick the food, the ants keep the food, and the grasshoppers leave.
You're right, Prospector. I can't stop Andy from growing up. But I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Fish are friends, not food.
It's great. The cowboy shoe. You're kind, smart. But the thing that makes Woody special is he'll never give up on you. Ever. He'll be there for you. So long.
They are afraid of new ideas. They're loaded with prejudices, not based upon anything in reality, but based on if something is new, I reject it immediately because it's frightening to me. What they do instead is just stay with the familiar.
Who's in charge here? Oh, finally. Oh. Hey, who's got my hat?
Look, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Give me that.
Okay, so,
Did you notice anything?
yeah, I mean, if, not just did you notice something, but if you, after watching this, could think of a research topic, what might it be? It's cute stuff. I love animated, fully animated.
Great history of
things.
animation.
Could, you could compare Pixar to Disney.
Yes.
In terms of?
Maybe popularity with children.
Popularity with adults.
Some of the themes that they, maybe the messages that they're trying to teach, right?
Or even like types of characters, because they seem to use a lot of animals and toys, whereas Disney might use more like princesses and princes.
Yeah. So you can take something simple and maybe go with an idea, right? But did you notice anything else? Did you notice any bias in there? Think about that word bias. Did you notice any discrimination?
You're shaking your head, yes.
Do you start and end
I saw
with
the
Toy
studies.
Story?
Oh.
Well,
I saw them before.
they did start
When I was
with
looking
Toy
at mine,
Story.
So I know what it is.
Yeah?
I'll let them, I
You'll let them
already
get-
know
you
because
already
I've
know.
already
You looked
seen
ahead.
it.
You
Well,
looked
no,
ahead.
I saw when I was looking up stuff for mine, I've already seen what
Okay.
you've had, I've seen
Okay.
those charts.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
Okay.
Previous research, you mean?
Okay,
Alright.
okay. So there weren't very many females in that video.
Are you talking about female characters or female women?
Female characters, female women, not many female.
And very few lead.
The ratio, I don't know,
That's
60 to 1. Remember when they said they're afraid of doing things different? They're afraid of going with the unfamiliar? Well, they kind of just demonstrated to me that they're afraid of going with the unfamiliar. Because when you think about it, and let's look at it, let's see what they've done with their movies in terms of gender issues, okay? You came up with some ideas. Remember, let me back up a second. Remember when you do something, if it's never been done, that's great, but sometimes you still need a springboard, bless you. And so what I did is I looked at written child stories, and the ratio is usually 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 male to female in those stories. When you look at television shows, 3 to 1, 4 to 1 male to female. And yet, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, females slightly outnumber males in the U.S. So what hasn't been done? Well, we haven't looked at animated films. So I did a presentation on this. I decided to do some research on this.
By animated, you mean 3D animation?
Yeah, the only thing I could find was a couple studies. And one of the studies said, and this is where you get into quality assurance controls too. One of the studies said they were going to look at 6 animated movies. And I counted them. They only looked in their article at 5 animated movies. So their title was wrong. So we know there are problems. Now here's a quote that was kind of interesting to me. You can read it, right? It says, regarding children's developmental processes, one set of authors basically say teaching specific roles, values, and ideas. It's more, animated films may have more influence in that domain, even compared to things like public schools, religious institutions, and the family. Now, you can contest that, but that's what one set of authors
I
is
think
saying.
they could have a point with that, especially because the reinforcement that comes from repetitively watching that movie, whereas in a public school, they
Oh,
might
yeah,
have
I
the
didn't even
lesson
think of
one
it.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, kids are great
They'll
about,
watch it
let's
several
watch, I mean,
times.
they watch it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I mean, from an
Yeah.
adult perspective.
I didn't
So
even
they
think
learn
about
it
that.
again and
Yeah,
again
and
and
again,
again.
Think
yeah.
about that. That's a good point. That's a good point. We are seeing some changes though in terms of certain things, like females are gaining more agency, what they call agency in different types of movies and animated movies. So they're becoming more powerful. But the gender ratio is still disproportionately male compared to female. And that's a study that said it looked at 6 animated movies. I only count 5 there. Right. Anyway, and he double checked the numbers. We both agreed. They only looked at 5, not 6.
When you think about, Disney films, like Janetta brought up, some of the original Disney films were women.
Yeah.
Snow White,
Yeah.
Cinderella.
Yeah, the
Cinderella.
princesses.
Yeah.
But that was the main character,
Yeah.
and then Snow White and the 7 dwarfs,
Dwarfs.
not 7 Snow Whites and the one dwarf, you know.
But Pixar is supposed to be this new kind of approach to animation.
Yeah.
These new
It kind of
contemporary
broke down
messages
some
from-
walls,
Right.
And then DreamWorks followed. So this study actually looked at DreamWorks and Pixar. But since then, I've also looked at Disney. But I don't have the data here to show you. But basically, what I thought is that here, if you said it in a null sort of way, you would say there's no difference in terms of male-female ratios in full-length animated movies. If you were saying, here's your experimental hypothesis, you would say one favors the other, right? In my case, I'm going to propose that males outnumber females in animated movies. So there is some gender bias going on. Okay, so I looked at all the Pixar movies.
And here you're talking about just general characters, not even like primary characters, right? Or
Principal characters is what I'm looking at. So when I looked at principal characters, and I looked at all these movies, they started out 3-1 with Toy Story. That was the first one, Toy Story. Remember, that was a big deal, Toy Story. It was a big deal, 3-1. And then Bug's Life went to 2.2. It's like they're going down, and then all of a sudden they bounce up and they go to 3.7 with what? The Incredibles, and then Cars. Well, but the name, probably would be male dominated. It's 4.7. Look at Ratatouille, 15-1, and then 2.2. We went back down, but then look, it goes back up, back down, up, and then the best one is Brave. At least with the data I looked at the time, it was up to 2012. All the Pixar movies, starting with the first one, ending with the last one in 2012. So there's no really clear, do you see a clear discernible pattern there? Yeah, it's like they started 3-1, then it kind of goes down, and then it starts to go up, and then it bounces all over the place, and then it's a really big jump with Ratatouille, and then it goes way back down, and then it goes way back up, and then back down, back up, and then the last one, what would be interesting is now to look at 2013, which I've done, and when I get that slide together, I'll show you what's happened. 2013, 2014, some of the ones that have come out more recently, to see if there is a pattern following this lowest number here. 1.4 to 1. Does that make sense? Yeah. That would be interesting, right? DreamWorks. They started a little early, a little later. See, 1996 is when Toy Story came out with Pixar. Then we have DreamWorks, right? And that was 1998. They started a little lower than Toy Story. Notice that? 2 years later, instead of 3-1, it's 2.3 to 1. So they started out a little lower. Then it went lower still, 1.8 to 1. That's getting close to the last one, 1.4 to 1 with Pixar.
To 1, the name of the
Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt.
Yeah. And then they went way up. It's like almost like Ratatouille there, 11 to 1. And then now we're back down to 1.3. Then we're back up to 7.5, 14, up, 5.5, down, up, down, but not really down, 8.5, then we're starting to go down, and the last one, well, not the last one, but the last one on this page is 2.2 to 1. And if we go to the next page, we go up to 2012 again. We're looking at the numbers, they're bouncing all over the place. There is one movie, though, that goes the other direction, and one only, out of everything I looked at. I looked at Disney, I looked at DreamWorks, I looked at Pixar. There's only one movie that went in the opposite direction, and that was the Shrek Forever After. So, I think I put this all on one slide as well. I tried to cram it all in on one slide. See, it's smaller, but maybe it's easier to see on your page there. Now see if you can find a discernible pattern. Do you see any possible patterns? I have one possible pattern. One possible.
So anything to do with using like humans instead of like animals or?
The pattern that she's referring to, no.
Yeah, but I'll think about that one.
odd years.
It's all to one.
Odd years?
Yeah, the years that they came out.
Okay.
See,
What
it's
about
all
the
to
years?
one.
There might be a pattern there. I didn't even think to look at that. That wasn't the one I saw.
Star Trek.
But that actually, there may be
Star
something
Treks don't
to
say
that
how many views
to look at.
Even though.
Look at sequels. Look at sequels. Look at sequels.
Megamind hasn't come out yet.
Hmm.
It doesn't come out until 2010.
Okay. Look at Shrek. Where did Shrek start out as?
7.1.
Okay, then what was the next Shrek? Shrek 2. It went down, right? What's the next Shrek?
5.
It went down again, right? And then the last Shrek? It went the opposite direction. It's almost as if when they hook you, does this make sense? When they got you, when they know you're going to come and watch it, they can take more risks, right?
Have you seen what they gross when they do have more females? What
That's
they
a good
gross?
question.
Because
That's
I
a
know
good
that
question.
for Pixar, Brave didn't do well for them. Brave wasn't a moneymaker.
What's Frozen's ratio?
Frozen has done pretty good.
Frozen isn't Pixar.
Yeah.
No, but
it
it's
has
not the
done,
same.
it's done very well.
Movie-wise, what does that
Yeah,
one gross?
Yeah, yeah. So
That one's gross about.
Because that's not Pixar either, those are all
That one's
DreamWorks.
gross
But
about
see, Pixar
400
and all the
million, I think,
princess
is what
movies
it
are
said.
two
Yeah,
different,
I think,
you know.
yeah.
But you look at the ratio of the princess movies, you'd be surprised they're not what you think. There's a lot of male characters. Just the princess is the female. And they have all the background are all male. Look at Beauty and the Beast,
Like you
that's
said,
gotta be
there's Snow
horrible.
White, but then there's the
Seven
Seven
Dwarfs.
Dwarfs.
Like I said, Beauty and the Beast, you have the
Yeah.
one and then all the
But
rest
if
all
you stack
male.
them, they
You don't
become
see any more
like-
females in the whole thing except for
Well, that
lots.
brings up another possibility that you could look at this data.
And then
Is
they-
you
yeah.
go through
It's
and you
like
could look
4 in the
at
whole movie and
FaceTime.
300 males.
How much on camera time do the females get as opposed to male? So even in red, the males outnumbered the female, but were the female characters on screen more than the males? Don't know.
Well, Madagascar is a repeat, isn't it? Let's see, Madagascar 8.5 to 1, is that the first one? And then we go down to Madagascar 2, 4.3 to 1? Is there another Madagascar?
Yeah.
It went slightly up, so it's not perfect. But notice there was a decrease in
Trend.
trend, okay? Was there another repeat here? Let's see. Kung Fu Panda, 6.5 to 1, and then Kung Fu Panda 2, 4 to 1. So they're a trend, just a trend.
Kung Fu Panda, was that a hit? or no?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
So
Puss in
you,
Boots is a spin-off of Shrek, but it went
so you did this research to show, and it's, so there's obviously more, I mean, the majority of male characters. So what, I guess, conclusion or what, I mean, apart from looking
The
at the
only
videos-
pattern I could see was that when there was a sequel that had a winning formula, that there was more risk-taking that took place with gender equality. You know, that's the only pattern I could see. Now, there might be other patterns that exist, but that's the only one I could personally
So the risk is making the female the main character, that's what
see in an
the risk
initial
was.
movie. Yes, I think there's more of a risk that way. Now, as time goes on and as more movies are added to this list, we might be able to see whether that holds true or not. You know, as more sequels take place, does that tend to get supported again and again and again? The more data you have and the more patterns that you see, the more conclusions that you can be firmer about, right? But nothing ever proves anything. And
How do you get the decimals for the main characters? Like, you know, where it says
oh, you know, like if you have
1.8
like
to 1.
15 males to 3 females,
Okay, so you're
it's 5 to
counting all
1.
the characters,
I'm-
not just the main
The
ones?
principal characters, yeah.
And there's a movie database that shows the
Yeah.
principal.
You know, the
Characters.
IMDb, yeah, that's the one you look at. So basically, this is a quantitative study that looks at descriptive statistics instead of an analysis like a t-test, like I did with the dissertations. This looks at descriptive data. You know, you look for patterns, you look for themes, right? So anyway, we still have a lot of different quantitative things to look at. But I thought some of this stuff might wet your whistle, you know, in terms of, oh, if I do think of a dissertation, what could I do?
Yeah, you sit around and watch movies all day.
There you go. Yeah. You could look at agency. You could look at FaceTime. You could look at, you know, I just looked at gender ratio. That's just one little tiny aspect. You know, I didn't even look at racial. You could look at racial, right? Hello? I was just looking at gender. And look what happened. And it was so ironic because that statement, they're afraid of taking risks. They only want to go with what's familiar. And here we go. The whole thing was with
And
what's
this is,
familiar.
for these are companies, remember, this isn't risk in an abstract. I mean, some of these movies, hundreds of millions of dollars to produce, and they have investors to answer to.
Yeah.
So they need to see a return on their investment. They need to show a profit.
So one might say that society still values males when it comes to movies. Because we're willing to pay money to see male characters. But as female characters become more stronger, as their agency grows, maybe we'll start to see things change in that domain. For example, the Hunger Games. Hello, right? Right?
Male dominated, but
a female with agency in it. Who's the star?
Well, there's a lot of post-apocalyptic young adult literature right now, and I was thinking, I was running through all these different books, and a lot of them have female leads, like the main characters.
Divergent.
So we might be seeing some changes in certain domains, but we're still having some problems in terms of inequities, you know, at least with ratios, right? So.
They might also, you know, be marketing not just to the United States, but worldwide.
yeah, and there's a data bank out there that,
You know,
I'm actually looking at the FaceTime aspect of it, and there is a data bank, I can't remember the top. It'll give you every bit of data you want to know about any film, how much it made overseas, how much it made on Blu-ray, how much it made on DVD, how much it made on DVD in Taiwan, or, you know, just however you want to parse it down.
If they want to sell a lot of movies,
Yeah.
do volume,
Oh,
they
yeah,
need to know.
it isn't just the box office receipts
Right,
that
they need to
contribute
know about the country's culture, because if it's a male-dominated culture, they're gonna have more male characters.
Yeah, but can you name one major culture that is not male dominated?
The Philippines?
No, it's a very patriarchal.
It is,
I
but there's.
say Scandinavia, somewhere in Scandinavia, it would probably be as equal as you're gonna get.
I was gonna say I didn't have data on Disney, but I do have, I'm presenting at the Western Psychological Conference on this. And, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. 3.3 to 1, yeah. We do have 14 to 0 with the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Cinderella.
Cinderella's pretty good.
1949.
That's a great.
Oh, here, I forgot about this one. There, Cinderella. Yeah, 1 to 1.2, right? So that went in the opposite direction.
Sister, stepmother.
Yeah. I don't know if there's another slide there. There's more.
So Prince Charming, that's.
So Bambi was 1 to 1, and Cinderella was 1 to 1.2. But notice, different years, right? Look, 1950, 1942. And how long did it take us to go in the opposite direction with Pixar? And you know, we're now into the 2000s. You know, so this is kind of interesting, isn't it? Even Sleeping Beauty, 1.1 to 1, right?
Isn't there a new either Sleeping Beauty
New
or
Cinderella coming.
Cinderella
yeah.
coming? Oh, okay.
Maleficent came out last
But
year.
kind of back and forth, 1.1 to 1 with the Great Mouse Detective. That was in 1986. Let's get closer. Let's go to the 2000s. Let's see, 1 to 1.5 Dinosaur, right? Okay, 1.2 to 1 with Recess, School's Out. I never saw these movies myself, but 1.5 to 1 with Princess and the Frog. 1.5 to 1 with Frozen.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's it.
Princess and the Frog.
Yeah. Princess, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Princess and the Frog set in Louisiana.
Okay. Now we know. Louisiana. Anyway, it's just interesting, isn't it? But things that are surrounding you, you could do studies on. You know, and actually, again, very interesting things, you know. But doable. This was very doable. All I had to get is on a database and look.
Yeah.
Very doable.
Especially in the field of psychology, you're often working with human subjects.
Yes.
And
This is
you
so
have
much
to go
easier.
through an entire institutional review board to get permission
Yes.
to even think about proceeding. But
This
this,
is like the
just
easiest of the easiest.
grab it
Doing
off the-
dissertations? Oh, that was so easy. Dissertations are public domain. I didn't have to go through the IRB to do dissertations. Public domain stuff. Anyway, think about it. You guys have a great night, okay?